Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another chapter read of Give Me Back My Children. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we begin. Chapter 11, The Missing Husband. Warren Jeffs told Richard to hurry with his add-on. When he wasn't with Warren on private drives, Rich was building the house of his dreams. I, along with his other wives, added our input. It was our own mini palace with a round pillar full of personality rare in a small town. It was known as the Castle House. The men gathered every Saturday to help with projects for others in the community. Different jobs would be top priority, and construction of our house was often there. We were grateful to move after staying about a year in Father Dean's home. Rich often mysteriously left for hours. Lately, he acted strange and less patient. Rulon's wives were given to trusted men, and we worried each time Rich ran in the house, threw on his suit, and disappeared again that he'd bring home another wife. Mara said, "Not if I can help it. Father would never do that to me." One night, Richard left in his suit. He returned after 11 ladies he called through the house. This wasn't needed. We were all in his room waiting to tell him good night. "Okay, I have something to tell you. Prepare your heart," Rich said somberly. I didn't dare breathe as I waited. "I'd like you to welcome Mother Diane into our family." My face drained of all color. Mother Diane was one of Rulon's oldest wives who had a crush on Rich. I detected humor behind Rich's eyes and realized the joke was on us. All three of us were white as snow. "Mara, I'd like for you to give her your room and you move in with Sarah." My face formed a half smile as I waited for the jester to stop his joke. He chuckled and flapped on his bed. "Don't think I don't know what you girls talk about every time I leave." He held up his foot for removal of his shoe. Soon it was made clear he wanted more as he wiggled his toes and begged for a massage. I took his foot in my hands. "You're such a spoiled boy." His grin was cheesy. "I know. You can give my room to Diane. I won't need it much longer if you keep playing jokes on me." Lizzie stomped out and slammed her door, and her voice filled with anger. Being my cousin, I knew about the Sullivan trait. My mom reacted the same way to every joke we played on her growing up. Joking was a lie, and there was nothing funny about a lie. Once again, I was glad I shared more of my dad's genes. It was a good, clean fun, and the only way you can go through life lightheartedly. True to Mara's prophecy, Rich didn't get one of Rulon's wives. I was thankful she had such sway with her daddy dear. I was pregnant again, and as predicted, spent most of the time on and off bed rest. I usually kept my girls close by, but they were anxious to live freely in their own home. It resulted in some frustration. "You better go clean up that mess right now," Lizzie's shrill voice cut through the house. Anger ran through me. I tried to fight it back. Lizzie gave up resenting Mara and became her personal maid instead. She aimed her need to feel resentful at me instead. "You're a naughty little girl. Go sit on the chair and fold your arms. You're too naughty to play with Brianna. Stay there until Father gets home, and don't you move." 3 claps. Then Janetta's cries filled the air. I couldn't take the injustice exercised on my 3-year-old daughter any longer. I got out of the bed, and the words of my midwife tugged at my conscience. "You're close to spending the rest of your pregnancy in the hospital unless you're extremely careful." Thankfully, Soraya slept soundly on her bed. If only Mara was home. Lizzie never treated my girls unkindly in front of her. Janetta, baby, come to Mother." I called down the banister. "You will not go," Lizzie said firmly. "She's being naughty. I'm having her sit on a chair." I looked straight into the eyes of my husband's second wife. "Janetta, come to Mother." This time my voice was ice cold. Janetta stopped crying. I never stood up against Lizzie correcting until now. She must be punishing me, too, in how she treated my girls. So all of them treat each other's kids badly. Lizzie's least favorite thing to do was housework and meals. Janetta came to me and put her small hand in mine. She had such a precious look, one that makes a mother's mission to protect her children worth it. Yeah, you wouldn't be hitting my kids, especially if I know that you're taking out your frustration on them. No. Janetta would often tell me, I only want to be with Mara. Lizzie doesn't like me. Mara was always kind to the children, which I loved that about her. Later, Rich walked in with a firm look on his almost always smiling face. I was surprised. You got out of bed? Was his first sentence. Why was he speaking to me in such a heartless manner? I thought little of the episode earlier that day. It wasn't a question because he gave me no time to answer. Did you stand up against Lizzie's correction? Also not a question, but the words he said next chilled me to the bone. If you're going to disobey my command by standing up against your sister wife, you will be removed from my home. I will take you to my mother's room and you will not get to see the girls. Do you understand? Oh no. Oh no. Who the bleep does he think he is? He's talking to her like she's a child. I was too stunned to answer. Rich never threatened me before, nor rebuked me in such a matter-of-fact tone. His voice wasn't loud, but he meant every word. I watched the man I thought I knew walk away with Sarai in his arms and Janetta's hand in his. The firmness of his words taught me I wasn't allowed to protect my children. I never wanted Rich to talk to me like that again. On May 8th, 2003, I had Richard's first son, Andrew. We settled into our new home and began to live a private life for the first time since Mara was married, which was a little over a year ago. Late one evening, after spending the day with Rich, Mara came in my room just as I was settling in for the night. I managed to muffle most of the shock I felt. It was soon replaced with deep concern. I never saw evidence of Mara crying until now. To be honest, I didn't think she was capable of crying. Yet, here she was, face red from tears. She sat at the edge of my bed, and I reached out to show any support and comfort I could. I was shocked when she wrapped her arms around me for the first time and sobbed. My mother has breast cancer. Okay, well, if we weren't sure of it before, because I just read the other chapter, and I was confused because she kept saying Mara, 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 but it's Rachel that she's talking about. Her calling her a different name threw me off, but this lets us know for sure, and you've probably already said it on Monday's video that that's definitely what this is, but I'm cheating. I'm reading this today and I'm posting it on Wednesday. My mother has breast cancer. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? Her mother's diagnosis was terminal. Under all those layers, Mara wasn't inhuman. My heart hurt about her mother, but another part was joyful that Mara let me have a chance to earn her friendship. Rich went through a time of being home more. He also became stricter and more impatient. I wanted to support him and promised myself I'd be more understanding. Rich became more withdrawn. When I asked how he was doing, he looked as if I was 100 miles away. I needed my family to be worthy of the blessings of the Lord and his offering, he replied in an emotional voice. What are you talking about? We were extremely blessed to have what we have. I kissed him. If I could only tell you, I want you and my family to always be with me. The Lord has promised great blessings for the faithful, those who turn to him and believe. I pondered this confusing conversation, but couldn't make out what puzzled me. I woke up with a start one evening. Something felt wrong. It was still dark outside when I ran to my window. The night was black except for the small corner post light. Everything was still, even the air. Why did I wake up? Did my children stir? My two girls were asleep on my bed, so I knew it wasn't them. Andrew was asleep in his bassinet. What is this feeling in the pit of my stomach? The feeling did not go away when I slipped back into bed. Something was terribly wrong. I fell back asleep. With the dawn came a wife's greatest horror. Sarah, wake up. The urgency of Mara's voice brought my full attention. Rich is gone. It took me seconds to digest the meaning of her words. Okay. I looked at her like she was an alien with two heads. Seriously, Sarah, he's gone, like gone. I'm sure he'll be back. She held out a folded piece of paper. What does this mean? Mara quizzed. Taking the letter in my hand, I silently read. October 3rd, 2003. Dearest sweethearts, the day we prepared for has come. I pray you wouldn't be left behind. I had to move on with the Lord's work. Would to God would to God we could all be together. I guess he was supposed to say wish to God. All your life you prepared for the day when you placed your hand in mine so I could exalt you. Now is when the training will be put to the test. Shortly your lives and mine will be threatened as we obey the prophet. Daily tests will strengthen you for what the future will bring. How do I know this? It is because the Lord prophet, seer, and revelator told me. Your daily tests are to prepare you. How you use them is whether you will grow your testimony of the prophet who always does right. He's so loyal to this faith that it's doing him in. Do you let someone bother you? Do you forget to voice gratitude, therefore harboring in your mind bad feelings which you make you feel down or discouraged? My dear ones, it's the little things which hold us back. Would to God I could tell you what I know. Okay, so he doesn't know how to write. He don't know how to write. Oh, a lot of them only get an eighth grade education. Because he says instead of wish, he says would. Would to God you could be with me right now. Repent and prepare that by the miracle of God, you will be worthy to be with me and our holy prophet together forever. If I never see you in this life again, know I'll always love you. Raise my children with a love for God and the prophet. I pray we can be worthy to see each other again. Remember my love, which is stronger than the world can stretch. You want them to raise your kids to love the prophet who's pulled you from their home? I don't think so. I just find that hard to be. My brain spun as I tried to make sense of it. I stopped there, not willing nor ready to read on. We walked across the hall into Rich's room and Lizzie joined us. Mars sat beside me on his bed and Lizzie in his chair. We avoided eye contact so we couldn't see each other's confusion or emotion. I handed Lizzie the letter. Read it out loud, please. I didn't recognize my voice. We sat in silence. Lizzie finished reading the letter out loud. Pass the test. I love you. I need you. Please don't forsake me by letting little things rob you of the increase. You will miss the chance to be part of the building up of God's work. Our prophet is moving forward. Do not be found wanting and therefore missing the boat. I only want to do his will, for I love him, all caps, the most. Let's not wait for the test to get stronger. We have to get close to Heavenly Father now, all caps. Not with fear, but with love. Only love will carry us through. There will be a door of deliverance for the faithful. I hope this letter helps. Till we meet again, love, Rich. No one knew what to say. My baby woke up, so I stepped out. In the safety of my own room, hot tears of anger and confusion fell. Andrew gratefully went back to sleep as I slid to the floor and buried my head to my knees. Addressing the feelings was easier said than done. I went through the letter again and saw more. P.S. I'd like Mara to take charge. Do morning class and evening prayers. If you need anything, get with Mara. Oh, boy. So he's still causing... This is the problem. The men cause some of the division because why would you put her in charge? Why not you say divide things up evenly amongst yourself and all this other thing? You're making the third wife in charge of the other two. That's not going to go over well. At all. He put my sister wife over me. Indignation took over. I'll be damned if I answer to another woman. I had it before and I wouldn't now. Turned out it was as awkward for Mara. It definitely brought us all much closer. The three of us each had a baby within the year and we stayed busy. I was grateful for sisters. Mara said she was going to go to her father to see what she could do. It was disappointing when she came back with nothing but a message. We were told by Warren that no one was to know about Rich's absence. Absolutely no one. We were invited to family classes on the Jeff's block. We were forced into living a secret. The only way to keep Rich's absence a secret was to distance ourselves from the people close to us. We often talked amongst ourselves, guessing what Richard might be doing. So he removes them from the home and then doesn't allow them to share it with their families that Rich is gone. For the first time, no. I made crafts and did a lot of sewing for money. I also made hand-dipped chocolates and sold them at the local health food store. We did assembly work for a family business, making it possible to stay home with my children. A sense of liberation came knowing I could make my own life successful. For the first time in my marriage, we had a regular check coming in. We get an envelope with Rich Allred's family scrawled on front. It had money for us while our husband was away. We weren't scratching to make ends meet anymore. In fact, we lived comfortably. Mara stayed home even though Rich wasn't there, and we got to know each other. Mara's baby was 3 months older than mine. We had many nights staying up and realizing we had a lot in common and enjoyed each other's company. I know it's been hard, but I'm grateful Rich took the time with me. I'd have probably left him by now, Mara explained one evening. Living with a husband who has more than one wife isn't easy, and definitely harder with someone who seemed to have no desire to be a part of my life, I confess. It helped me look past myself long enough. Somehow, I wish I'd been more understanding. Mara, Lizzie, and I loaded up the girls and took a ride across town to visit with a friend. It had been 2 weeks since our husband went missing. Pulling up into the driveway, I sensed a presence. I triple-checked around the yard as we got the children out of the car. I opened the door, and there was a Jack Russell puppy in my house. We all looked at each other as our girls screeched. Dogs were banned from the community years previously after a Rottweiler attacked and killed a child. Rich is here. My heart beat faster, and I was breathless with excitement. My heart knew who it was. We went around the corner to the staircase leading to the upper level of the home. Sitting at the bottom was this bearded man with the most beautiful sky blue eyes and amazing smile. Was this Rich's evil twin? I kind of liked the bad boy look. He was smothered in hugs. There might have been a few tears. It was the first of monthly overnight visits. This would go on for months. We didn't ask questions because we knew they'd never be answered. When Rich would visit, there was so much to catch up on, like what the kids had been doing, learning, and saying. Rich would be home less than 24 hours. We'd write letters and get them to the man who answered the phones, and somehow Rich got them. I bought 2 journals and started keeping them so he could be involved with his children's day-to-day lives. Each time he came home, I traded journals. People started noticing things, as happens in most small towns, especially one as tightly knit as Short Creek. One day, Rich called and said we needed to pack and be ready for someone to move us from our new home we barely began to enjoy. A crew of trusted men came the next night and moved us behind the wall. The wall was 10 feet high and surrounded what was known as the Jeff's Block. It was clear Warren didn't want others knowing about Rich's disappearance. We moved into a much older, rundown home. Our children started getting sick within days of our move, and no matter how hard we tried, they didn't get better. We later found out that our home was infested with mold. When Mara let others know, a group of Warren's wives came and helped us clean up from top to bottom. Rich came home, staying long enough to get married to his 4th wife before leaving again. He left his new bride, Julie, with us. It was such a whirlwind of wedding that it almost didn't feel real. I felt sorry for Julie, who wouldn't have the quality time with Rich that we all had, but we did our best to welcome her into our family. At least she was Lizzie's younger sister, so she had someone she knew. 2 months later, Rich took Julie in the middle of the night to live with him, wherever it was that he lived. That's when it dawned on me. Rich was building a new life away from us, and we had to be proven worthy if we wanted to be with him. Yeah, hearing the 2 sides of this is different. There's a little bit of similarity there in this chapter, but makes sense. Chapter 12, Warnings and Threats. Mother, we should go see Grandfather Dean. I miss him and everyone, Janetta said one morning after breakfast. Yes, baby, let's go see them. Get your shoes and socks on. I'll finish the dishes and we'll spend the day there. I finished the kitchen cleaning. Janetta had Sarai and little Andrew all ready to go. Diaper bag and everything. Janetta was 5 going on 20. We walked into my father-in-law's house. I sensed the cloud overshadowing the home. No one said anything, and many avoided chatting with me. It was strange. Usually I was consumed with hugs and questions, and everyone fought to take my kids. The moms would all gather for coffee and pull out a fresh baked pastry. This time there was nothing. After being there for a short time, I asked, "Where's Kate?" The room went still. Everyone looked at each other. Kate was Richard's 12-year-old half-sister. "Where's Kate?" I asked again. One of the younger children blurted out, "She disappeared in the night." What do you mean? Did she disappear or did they take her? Kate's mom, Medee, rushed out of the room. The prophet came and took her. Don't tell me he married this little girl. This must be the 12-year-old. Father told Medee she got to go to Zion. I knew Kate was going. She's so perfect, another child threw in. My head spun. What? How could a 12-year-old be taken from her home and mother? I followed Medee and found her sitting on the sofa in her room crying. I tapped the door, walked over and sat beside her. She sobbed in my shoulder. We sat there for 5 or 10 minutes crying. How could they take such a young child? What are they doing? Anger simmered inside of me. I know I'm supposed to be happy my daughter is worthy of Zion. Someone the prophet can use, but I'm not. I'm not allowed to talk to her. I have no idea where my baby girl is. How can I be happy about that? Dean said if we want to see or hear from her again, we have to go to Zion. I won't watch her grow up. I didn't get to tell my baby girl goodbye. I don't even know what she's doing. Dean only told me enough to pacify me so I wouldn't call the police. Sarah, she paused. Her voice was one of horror. What if she got married? The anger I felt peaked as her last sentence. I was in shock. Medee, she's way too young. She'd never get married. And all my life, I never heard of someone that young getting married. I tried to comfort her, but I had a sick feeling about all this. Did my husband have anything to do with this? He's a good man. He'd never do anything wrong, never. I was so disturbed. I wanted to talk to Richard right then. Later that evening, when Rich did call, I told him what I learned. Kate? His voice was of cold shock. Like my baby sister, Kate? Rich, what's going on? What have you been doing this past year? You know I can't answer that. It's a matter of my salvation. I'd lose everything. You have to understand that. Have faith in me and our prophet. Never again commit the wicked sin of questioning what God has him do. But what about Kate? How is this okay? I don't know, but she's in good hands and will be taken care of. Years later, I found out that Warren Jeffs took 12-year-old Kate to wife the night she was taken from her father's house. Not even Dean knew until years later. It was one of the many reasons Warren disappeared. Young women were going to older men, some very young. The one I personally saw what was done behind 10-foot walls and in the secrets of Zion. It was only exposed because of the raid in Texas. I think she's missing something in that sentence because I had to reread it just to make sure I didn't miss anything. My eyes flew open. What woke me up? It took a minute to remember I was in the small pink house behind the great walls. 2 months and I was still getting used to it. I knew without peeking through the window what I'd see. The same thing happened nearly every night. Trucks loaded to the brim of men standing around them. I wasn't supposed to see the vans of people which came and went. Sadness swept over me. A dark, heavy cloud covered the property and spread much further than the 10-foot walls. I almost heard the hearts of so many reeling to and fro in agony and loss. Angry raindrops pounded on my window as if the heavens shared the pain I felt. I slipped out of my covers to check on the children and realized there was no need. My bed was occupied with all three. I smiled and kissed Sarai's forehead and covered Janetta's little toes. After watching the rain beat on the window pane, I stepped downstairs to see if there was any evidence of why I felt such strong sadness. I saw nothing on the south side. There were no lights across the property to the southwest. Whatever happened was already done. The sadness was so strong, I returned and snuggled up to the greatest and often only comfort I could lean on, my 2 little girls and baby boy. They were the only thing I could hold on to and nothing. But God could take them from me. he wouldn't be so cruel. After tossing and turning for the remainder of the night, I woke hoping the sun would shine. No happy sun this day. The sky was faithful to let her show her face, but her usual luster wasn't seen or felt. I continued my usual routine of putting breakfast on the table before prayer and class time. Rich left before we went to bed last night, so it was lazy morning with no class until 6:30. Mara came in and picked up maple nut muffins from the cooling rack. I'm going to see Mother and make sure she's doing okay after her rough day yesterday. Give her our love and tell her we're praying she has better days. Mara slipped out the back door to the path leading to her father's house. I took my last batch out of the oven when Mara walked in. Her face was white as her hoarse voice whispered, "They're all gone." I braced myself for the horror I knew must be coming. "Mara, what? Who's gone?" Mara was speechless. I never saw her like this. People disappeared from our lives nearly a year now. What got her so worked up? I waited for her explanation. He took all of them. Father took every one of his children, she choked out. Well, that's nice. They're able to see him now. I was confused at the utter devastation her tone portrayed. Sarah, he took all of the children but left their mothers. Lightning ripped through my heart. I never in 100 years thought something so cruel could happen in literally my own backyard. I was sure I didn't hear her right. Uncle Warren took his children away from their mothers? I barely made out the words as the room spun. I sat straight down on the floor. This means Richard helped. He was driving a van. What in the hell are they doing? I never thought my father would do something like this. If cancer doesn't kill my mother, this will. I've never seen my mom like this. She won't talk. Hot anger scorched my soul, an anger I could never express. This anger wasn't just against the Lord's prophet, but also directed at my own husband. If I voiced this anger, I'd be deemed rebellious and there'd be greater consequences. Now I had to protect my children, not only from the dangers of the world, but their own father and his prophet. Notice she said in his prophet. I had to go somewhere. I stumbled until I found the phone. "Mom, can you come get us? I need to get out for a bit. Your dad and I are grabbing something in Hurricane. Would you like to come with us? Your dad has been asking when his little man is coming to see us. We missed the heck out of the girls." After hanging up the phone, I reached for the blanket since Andrew was already in my arms. The girls threw on their jackets. "I hope we go to Wendy's. I really want a Frosty," Janetta said as we headed out the gate. I was pushing my luck. Warren told me a number of times I should let go of my former family and devote myself to my husband and his family. Right now, if anything is holding me back, it was these walls. They would suffocate me. What they don't know won't hurt them, I thought rebelliously as we slipped out of the small northeast gate where my dad suburban idled just outside. It was fun to see my dad so tickled over my kids. Mom and Dad loved it when we came over. My family almost reverenced me since they saw me less and less as the noose tightened over my freedom. My dad knew not to ask questions because I couldn't answer them. It seems wrong for a community who all believe and want the same thing to keep secrets. I understood my dad's frustration because he taught us by example. If you have a question, then you go to the horse's mouth and you ask them straight up. There was a short time in December 2003. Rich came home for a few months. He was told to watch the phones and work at the desk in the prophet's home. A priesthood bearer would always need to be on the property. We take Rich's meals and visit him there. One day, I sat in the living room visiting Rich when Warren called. Rich cast it over the intercom. It wasn't long before we realized it was meant for his direct family only. Something about it made me feel disturbed. I had a long way to go before I was ready to understand and accept what was happening. "The Lord is not pleased with the lack of faith in my family," Warren began. "Many turn to selfishness and beg my attention for the wrong reasons. When you have an issue, turn to faith and prayer. From now on, no one is to talk to me. Through fervent prayer and proving worthy, the Lord will inspire me to call you. You are not with me because you are not worthy. Those who have been sent back to Short Creek are in danger of being condemned of the Lord and losing your place with me and your priesthood ceiling. You must cry for deliverance of the wicked city of Short Creek. The Lord is withdrawing his spirit and only a select few in their immediate homes will be saved by my faith. After the call, Richard turned to me. Now you know what I've been going through and why I'm yearning for all of you to be with me. There's no time for petty things which cause the Spirit of God to leave us. I need you to qualify. I need my children. As I was leaving, I walked past a young girl I never saw in the house before. I taught her first grade, and I knew she was no older than 13. She walked past me in a daze, the portable phone in her hands. She was praying and staring at it like she was in a trance. A shiver ran through me as I watched. One could never walk through the halls of the home without hearing high-pitched voices pleading behind closed doors. It was creepy. Look at my picture. Janetta held up her masterpiece to be praised. You're such a beautiful artist. I love the picture. I'll have to pin it on my wall as soon as I'm done feeding the baby. I was on my queen bed feeding my 10-month-old boy, Andrew. There was no space in my tiny room for anything but my bed and a nightstand on one side. The children's bed resided in the adjoining room where Sarai was currently taking a nap, but they all seemed to think that my bed was where they slept at night. To my surprise, my 6'2" husband appeared in the doorway. I knew it must be important because he seldom visited my room. I need to talk to Mother. He sent Janetta to play with Andrew in the living room. I stood up and he held me in his arms. As soon as he held me, many of my doubts and fears about what happened to the other mothers, the fear that woke me up during the night, melted away. His arms gave me the love and security I needed. We sat down together on the edge of the bed. Do you know I love you? Rich asked. Yes, and I love you too. Oh, but sweetheart, I love you more. Where were his tender words to me? I felt his love so strong. There are some exciting things happening now. God truly loves his precious children. They are the hope of Zion. His conviction of truth far overpowered my weak and selfish mind. Do you have a testimony of what I am doing? Rich question surprised me. Do you have a testimony that God and his prophet always do right? It was tough. In his arms, it was difficult to remember the anger I felt when I realized Rich was involved in taking children away from their mothers. I reflected within myself before answering. Yeah, be careful what you say because it's going to be used against you and he's going to tell on you because he got to tell his daddy, Prophet Warren, everything that's going on. Rich won my love and trust long ago, and I gave my whole heart to him. I wanted to do whatever possible to make him happy. I needed to be valiant. In that moment, I realized how weak my testimony in God was. Rich was so much stronger than mine, and I felt humbled. I wanted to be strong in my testimony for him. I was willing to make whatever sacrifices needed in order to be with him and have him pleased with me. Yes, Rich, oh yes, I do. Rich smiled and held me close in his strong, reassuring arms. I breathed in his scent, knowing these moments were rare now. I looked into his eyes and sensed he was about to tell me something. Whatever it was, I felt a determination to submit to whatever he requested. Oh boy, let's see what this request is. The prophet asked me to give you this training personally. I'm to prepare you for the scenes ahead, which you'll be called to go through. Oh boy. I pray your heart will be in tune with the Spirit to know what I speak is true. His voice was so soft, so tender. My heart burned within me, and I already believed whatever he would say. Whatever you are called to go through or called to give up, you must never stand between it and the priesthood. God lets the punishment be great upon you. Oh boy, I think he gonna take her kids. Let's see. Some are ready for Zion, and they come with their children. Some are called to give up their children, like the sacrifice Abraham made with Isaac. But Abraham knew Isaac belonged to God, not him. You as well must never come between your children and the priesthood. Children are the hope of Zion, the core of great millennium. You must have a testimony of your own. No matter what you are called to go through, if you endure sweetly, in the end, you will have blessings so great you will not be able to contain them. God and his prophet always do right. No matter what it is, it's right. I just, like, this is a bunch of baloney. Rich is really getting on my nerves. He got on my nerves the last book, but she's telling us more details of certain things, and Rich is on my nerves because he really is a coward, and he really has been influenced and is stuck in this cult, because that's what this is at this point. There was a burning in my heart. I wanted to believe it was peace. I put great effort into preparing for my future test, serving everyone I met. I was determined to go to Zion with my children. I wanted to draw them in closer than ever and treasure the moments I vowed not to go through the test of Abraham. Multiple nights I'd stay awake to keep my kids safe. If everyone else disappeared during the night, then I'd be awake to make sure they wouldn't. When it got to be too much and I didn't manage to sleep, nightmares of my children being taken immediately woke me up again. When the fear got too great, the biggest comfort that pulled me through is knowing God, the prophet, and their father loved them. My children loved them. It was what I taught them. My children are my most precious gift, my part of Richard, a replica of celestial love. Our children gave me cause to breathe. I struggled to think about not having them by my side. I could hardly sleep, even if they were in the next room. They were always snuggled in bed with me, but Rich was right. The prophet was right. My children belonged to God, and I worked harder than ever to prove I was worthy to be their mother. Okay, let me see how many pages is in the next chapter, because I'm hungry. Let me see. Okay, I'll read chapter 13. Deeper into hiding, 2004. I turned 24. During the night, Rich came and collected Lizzie and her children for Zion. The next morning, when we saw everything of hers was gone, I felt a twinge of jealousy. Really? Lizzie? She was qualified for Zion? I shoved down those wicked thoughts and dedicated myself to being better. I would qualify for Zion. My children were still with me, and I was grateful for that. My heart longed for my husband. The children missed father so much. We yearned to be together as a family. It was difficult to dispel feelings of inadequacy. I was left behind while many family members stepped into a higher level of living, a step toward the glory of God. I took it hard. I was so ashamed of myself and felt I let my sweetheart down. I knew he wanted to take me with him. It was only Mara and I left. We grew closer as sister wives and I began to understand her a bit more. We can even be considered friends. The call came that Mara's mother was dying and she was to be with her while she passed. However, she wasn't allowed to take her 15-month-old Allie with her. Allie was content and happy with me, and I didn't mind watching her. The next day, I was feeding her in her high chair. Mara's sister Shelly walked in without a word and went to Mara's old room. She came out with Allie's stuff. "Come, Allie, you're coming with Aunt Shelly," she said. Annoyance demon grumbled. "You're not taking her. She's fine with me. Rich wants her to be here. Father told me to get her. This is the first I've heard about it. I'm not letting her go without Richard or Mara telling me. Mara doesn't want her here with you. Mara knows Allie is best here with me and her brothers and her sisters." That's not what she told Father. She said she'd never trust Allie with you. This hit me hard. I always treated Allie like my own and did all I could to have a good relationship with Mara. We've been through so much together. We should be able to trust each other. How could I not be the best person to take care of her child? Because she thought you were doing things to her child along with the other sister wives. And my question is, why did her sister feel the need to even tell her all of that? Allie walked out the door in her aunt's arms. It was not Shelly I blamed. No, I was hurt and betrayed for Mara. She said that to not just her father, but to the prophet, the man who held my life and happiness in his hands, the man who 2 months ago threatened to take my children from me. I told Shelly she should bring Allie over anytime so she could be with her brothers and sisters. Shelly spent a lot of time with us. Next time I saw Mara, I confronted her about it. She said, "I didn't want you to feel too stressed with Allie." One day, not long after Mara left, a lady came to me and said, "I marvel at your strength. You're taking it so well. Such a good example to me." Little did she realize what a weak person I am. Every day I woke up to my precious treasures, Janetta, Soraya, and Andrew. They kept me going. I worked for them and kept my positive smile all through the day. Every night, great lamenting of my sinful heart kept me up, and I struggled to sleep. It was painful to face all of my wickedness and sins. I felt like such a failure. The children were all worthy to go, but I couldn't bear to have them away from me. A call from Rich came maybe once a week or two. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I got thin and soon realized I wouldn't be able to take care of the children if I didn't take care of myself. I got bleeding ulcers because I allowed myself to worry so much. A lot of these people experience different things happening to their body, different health issues and things of that nature because of the amount of stress that this man put on their families because of the crap that he was doing. Worrying has been one of my greatest weaknesses. I needed to do something, and who better to call upon than the Lord? After the children went to sleep, instead of burying my head in the pillow, I knelt down with all my heart and laid my burdens at God's feet. As I prayed, I felt such power enwrap me with his love, like I was floating on air. My heavy burdens lifted off of my shoulders, and I felt God's love so strong it gave me cause to weep for joy. He'd help me walk through the storm of life, and he could heal my wounds. For the first time in 2.5 weeks, I felt like I could carry on. As soon as I stood up from my prayer, I heard the gate was being opened. I almost felt like I could float right out of the window. Finally, I got life pumped into my dehydrated being. For the first time in 6 years, I spent one-on-one quality time with my husband, and I fell in love all over again. One evening, sitting on the porch swing with Rich, we watched the girls play in the yard. Rich's special phone rang. I could hear most of the conversation between Rich and Warren. Your first wife needs to let go of her worldly ways and stop communicating with her former friends and family to focus on preparing for Zion. Move your family, still living in Short Creek, into the home of your brother, Nathan Allred, and no longer allow them to associate with people. No one is to know of her whereabouts. This is to be done in top secret during the night. If she is to prove worthy of Zion, she must humble herself and get close to God. Stay there a few weeks and get her settled into Nate's home before returning to the mission. Tell your first wife, God is listening to her every thought, feeling, and desire. Now is her time to prove worthy or be left behind. Reiterate the importance of her earlier message of not standing between God and what he does with his children. We talked for a while after the phone call. I was so confused. My friends and family were good people. Why couldn't I associate with them? Because he's trying to isolate you. That's what he does. I wanted to ask Rich, but I was afraid the Lord would see me complain. The last piece of conversation, that threat struck me hard again. At least I would have more quality time with Rich. Later that evening, after the children were asleep, we were in bed cuddling and talking intimately. I again tried to let myself feel love and passion. As we were caught up in the moment, Richard's phone rang. Don't get it, I begged. He reluctantly let go of me and reached for his phone. Hello? Hi, Rich, came the whiny female voice on the other end. Anger and resentment swirled inside of me once again. Like many other times in the past 3 years, Mara came between us. The internal battle started. This is the test to see if I'll keep sweet. I want to go to Zion. Rich, I need you to come. I'm in labor. Father said to change your plans and hurry to my side. An hour later, I was in bed alone, weeping into my pillow, praying God would take a break and not judge my angry tears. More than a week later, I got word Mara's baby was delivered. Again, I had to fight down the resentment as I saw her play and win. What do you want worse, to keep sweet and have your family, or have a petty problem and risk everything? We didn't see Rich for a while, and he called less. In fact, after we learned Madison was safely here, I heard nothing for close to a month. I wondered if I've been forgotten. Everyone on the Just block had evacuated, and most of us were on house arrest in Short Creek. Walls were built around many homes. Secrets and lies grew like a fungus through the community. People began to treat family as if they were separate. Some figured it was the lack of heavenly spirit the prophet's presence brought. Others felt like there was a separation and no longer a feeling of equality. One night, I was ready to give up. I considered taking my children and leaving so they couldn't take them from me. but I imagined the Lord sticking me with his flaming sword. I longed for it and dreaded hearing from my husband. When the phone rang, I felt neglected anger and didn't want to answer. Perhaps he'd feel a bit of punishment. However, if I did, he'd shrug and turn to another woman who was closer, more perfect and submissive. Hello? The sound of music hits my ear. I was confused. Rich was the only one who called this phone. Then I heard Rich's voice. Though it seemed at times we're far apart. Dear sweetheart, you're always in my heart. No distance nor time can change anything. My love for you is always the same. Through priesthood, there is an eternal bond that ties us all together. Our love beams strong. And if we use experience right, we'll be closer than ever, our burning love and bright. He gave me my song. Rich had a beautiful voice. I teased him to write me a song since we were married. Tears poured down my cheeks. How could I not forgive him after that? You're going to move again. Uncle Warren said no one on Jeff's property is safe. You won't be seen, or you could lose your place and mine, and the prophet's life could be in danger. Rich, what's happening? I asked. You should never question, Sarah. To question is to lose everything. Men who question don't trust the inspiration of their priesthood head or prophet. Everyone had to think I was gone. No one could know my whereabouts or anyone else in the home with me. It was a somber event. He reminded me everyone in that home were families unworthy of advancing to Zion. I only kept what fit in a bag. I was moved into my father-in-law's home and realized for the first time he was moved out of it. It was large and secluded. I was given a small corner section of the house with a large master bathroom connected with a sunroom, a small nursery, and a small bedroom next to it. The family there was to provide meals. We needed to quietly attend class held by Aaron Jeffs, our caretaker. It was like an uncomfortable house arrest. We were expected to follow the rules, and Aaron's wives would watch us and report disobedience. The next day, I woke up to a feeling of deep somberness in the house. To my horror, Scott Jeffs, Warren's brother, came in the night and took his children away from their mothers. All but two were left childless. An uncomfortable silence settled in me while lamenting filled the house. It was a matter of time before it'd be me who would go through the test. I couldn't think of a more horrific experience. I pulled my children closer to me and tried to keep to myself. I didn't want to flaunt my children in front of the other mothers. A week after I settled in, I was doing Janetta's hair. Janetta's long braid dropped from my hand as she screeched and raced toward my husband who stood in the doorway. My heart caught in my throat. A mix of dread and excitement engulfed me. Rich was there a half day before he got restless. He piled us in his dark-tinted car and took us on a ride. Lizzie was with him. I tried not to resent how I had to share our time with her. I felt inferior to Rich's other wives. I was relieved when he drove away without my children, and grateful he didn't have to leave until just before dawn. Would life ever get back to what I considered normal? And that is where I'm going to end because I'm hungry. Let me know what you thought about these. It just goes to show you how much crap all of the wives were going through and how Warren had so much time on his hands that he could nitpick and call and have all these different conversations and all these different rules for all these different people just up and pick and decide when they're worthy, when they're not, when they're moved, all that other stuff. He was a tyrant, y'all. And as I'm reading this, it just goes to show you that you just never know what other people are going through. I grew up in a strict faith, but it was nothing like what these people in this cult are going through. Tell me what you thought of this chapter. Like the video. Until next time.